No Limits, episode 86. Bree is back, baby. Hello, everyone. You're listening to No Limits, a PlayStation podcast, episode 86. My name is Taylor, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brianna.
Hi.
Returning after 3 weeks away.
What? You guys were away for 1 week, and then I was away for 2.
Yeah. And I'm joined by my co-host, Sam. Sam from Scotland. He's not from Scotland. Nope.
Doesn't even pretend.
Yep. Remember, you can find the video version of this podcast over on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. While you're over there, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you'd rather listen to audio, we are on all your favorite podcast services, and we would love it if you could leave us a review. It helps us grow, and we would love any feedback. If you want to support us and get early access to all Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia and choose the tier that's right for you. Just like our current patrons did: Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai Knight, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus Neal, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Time, Lee Navarro, and the good sir. Also, check out our YouTube. Whoop, I already said that. Also, interact with us in the Discord. Links are all in the show notes. How we doing? Awkward silence family.
God damn. I'm well, Taylor. Thank you for asking. I'm well. I'm perpetually at work. It's always the way.
No.
Not that I ever admit it, but it's realistically how I like it being.
Do you ever have a day off where you do no work?
No. Well, saying
no
that definitively is a bit of a hyperbolic statement, but essentially, to fundamentally and simply answer your question, no, I don't. Most of the time,
as your non-licensed therapist, I recommend taking at least one day off where you don't even look at IGN for work.
Considered, ultimately probably discarded, but appreciate the sentiment nevertheless.
That's like what a politician say when you give them a recommendation.
I'm being very diplomatic here, Taylor.
Yeah.
But I'm good. Energy levels are solid, which is abnormal for me.
Let's go.
The work I'm doing is a lot, but it's less of a mental drain than it has been over the past couple of months. So yeah, I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bree, welcome back.
Thank you. Are you asking me what I'm up to?
Mm-hmm.
Just been hanging out and reading. I've been playing a little bit of Dragon's Dogma 2.
Ooh.
But only a little bit.
Ooh.
But I did do in my opinion, I did a good job of making my pawn very handsome. So I'm excited about that.
Handsome. So is it a male or female?
Male.
Okay.
My character is a female. I was going to do both female characters, but then I had messed with the character creator when it got put on the store, and it had that character already preloaded because I had been messing around, and I was like, the character's attractive. I'll go with it. Because it can take me hours to create a character. So it's one of my talents, but it does take me a long time. Anyways, so yeah, I've been playing that a little bit, but I've mostly been reading. I'm basically stuck in a loop now and I have been since it's been like 2 full weeks now. Let me look. 1, 2, yeah, 2 full weeks of just reading basically the same books over and over.
You're rereading the same books.
Yeah, basically. Basically, so I read the series. It's a trilogy. I read all 3 books, and then I bought it. I read the ebook editions. Then I immediately bought it in physical and audiobook editions. And I'm listening to the audiobook versions now. And then I read 2 fan fictions based on it. That's like a continuation of the story, which is both fan fictions are almost the same word count as the entire trilogy. And then I read a 3rd fan fiction that is over the count of the trilogy, but it's the story, the exact same story told from the other character's perspective. So there's like 2 main characters. It's told from the other person's perspective. Anyways, so my brain is basically only that story as of right now. And that's all that's there. There's nothing else.
Well, as long as you're having fun.
I am.
Good. Very good.
What have you been up to, Taylor?
What have you been up to since we last talked? I was also reading. I finished number 2 of 26 in my Parker novel noir series. Book 3 will be delivered tomorrow, so I'll start that. I've also been reading a book called The Peter Principle. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
It's a satire. My dad sent it to me. It's a commentary on the workplace and also hierarchies, and it's based on the principle that people will always rise to their level of incompetence. Why there's always 25 vice president positions and no one can do their job. Why it seems like the contractor in your house always breaks things when they're trying to make a repair. Interesting principle that people are promoted to their level of incompetence and stay there.
Mm.
And it's a satire, but also has some things to say where it's like no one is excluded from this principle, not even you. So it's like,
I am incompetent.
Yeah, almost like Uncle Sam. Let me help you reach your level of incompetence faster. Let me help you fail upward the quickest. It's funny, but it has I guess I wouldn't call it a self-help book, but it's like mostly satire, but partly like career advice. But it's funny. It's a short book. Some things in it are a bit archaic, like use of the R word and 1 or 2 lines about people in the LGBT community that probably shouldn't be said, that were okay to say in 1969. But
were they okay?
Well, sorry. Society as a whole tolerated bigotry more than when it kind of came to those topics, I'd say. But
okay.
It has its issues there. The sentiment of the book, though, I think is still valid. So it's interesting so far. And in terms of games, I was playing Microsoft Flight Simulator again, and I started Control. And Control's good, although I haven't played it since last Monday. I need to get back on it. And I picked up Helldivers 2 yesterday. Helldivers 2 is very funny. And I'm, saving democracy, spreading managed democracy for liberty. Spreading democracy. Ensuring freedom by liberating galactic planets from the Terminids and the automatons. Terminids are the bugs, and automatons are basically Terminator robots. But I was laughing so hard at this. So you can name your ship, and they have different prefixes and suffixes you can use.
Mm-hmm.
So I named my ship the Arbiter of Family Values. And
nice.
And I'm going to play with some folks in the Play Some Video Games PSVG Discord later today. But it's fun. And I'm playing on PC. Works very well on PC. Connected my DualSense wirelessly. Adaptive triggers work. which is great. So yeah, that's been
good.
fun. So Control and Helldivers 2 has the most recent.
Okay. Sounds like a good time.
Yep. What about you both in terms of video games?
I've only played like maybe an hour of Dragon's Dogma 2.
Oh, right. You just finished the Dragon's Dogma 2. Okay.
That's literally it.
It's okay. I only played like 30 minutes of Helldivers yesterday. So
I've played a little bit more of the Battlefront Classic Collection. Still having mindless fun with that. What else? I started playing Hi-Fi Rush.
ooh, I forgot that game's on PlayStation now. Right.
It is.
Right.
So I got a couple of hours into that, having a thoroughly good time. I'm not great at rhythm games, but they have a whole lot of like assist things that make it a little bit easier to move and attack on the beat. So I've got all of those activated, which, you know, some purists might consider blasphemous, but I do what I must to have fun, and it is fun. I'm very glad that it came over. It's the kind of game that I would hope does get a sequel. I can't see it not being a sequel, and hopefully it'll come to PlayStation as well. I have dove in again, maybe a couple of hours tops on Marvel's Midnight Suns now that it's in the catalog update this month. Really like it, actually. I knew I probably would. I'm not massive XCOM dude, but obviously I'm a Marvel shill, and it's got almost like weird, not that I play Persona, but seemingly like Persona stuff where you're building up relationships with each of the party. I guess just RPGs in general, but Persona is the thing that sprung to mind. And you're sort of going and picking specific activities to go and do with them and hanging out and stuff like that. So that's cool. I like that a lot. Looking forward to getting back into it when I have more free time. The thing that, of course, that I can now talk about that's been consuming the most of my time is Rise of the Ronin, which I believe we'll be talking about very shortly. And I've been playing it for a few weeks now. I think this will be echoed in the stuff we discuss. It is like the perfect 7 out of 10 game. It doesn't do anything bad, and it doesn't really do anything excellently either. It's sort of perfectly good fun. As someone who had to cover Wolong last year from Team Ninja, and also I've played the Neo games, it's really hard. I think objectively, I like Wolong better, but I think, yeah, this is going to sound contrarian. I prefer Wolong, but I think that Rise of the Ronin is more fun.
Okay.
Rise of the Ronin is obviously, if you don't know, like completely open world. It's Ubisoft-y kind of checklist stuff on the map, you know, lots of different icons you can go and collectibles to get that all reward you with unique things.
I just knocked over my water. I'll be back.
Oh dear. And nothing's particularly challenging. Granted, I am playing on a lower difficulty because I need to get through it in a timely fashion, but
yeah,
nothing about it is challenging. It's kind of just breezing through, but I said this to you privately, Brie, I think, that the game is like Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro, and it's somewhere in the middle there where it's not as captivating in story or graphics as Ghost is, and it's not as challenging in combat as Sekiro is, but it's in the perfect middle point where it's got a story that's okay and does, granted, get better as it goes on. I must admit, it starts off pretty weak, and that you would expect from a Souls-like, whether you played Neo or Wolong or Sekiro or realistically any other FromSoft title, I suppose. It's that kind of parry, deflect, build up, stagger, wait to time it perfectly so you can get like a visceral strike, essentially. It's that, but just boiled down, simplified. And that's quite nice, actually. Like, it's not doing anything super excellent and it's not blowing me away, but to give me that, to itch that scratch, or to scratch that itch of that kind of gameplay loop and that combat, but in a more digestible, very easy, almost turn your brain off way, along with just things that you can, nice little ticks that you can check boxes with as you go, and nothing's too tough. I'm not getting frustrated. It's nice. Like, it's fun. It is also in a lot of ways meh, but games don't have to be excellent all of the time. Like, if it's just a good game, that's not a bad thing. It's a good game, which is what Rise of the Ronin is. It's not one on par with Sony first party stuff, which I think a lot of people are getting hung up on because this is published by SIE, but not obviously developed by. It's a second party relationship of being published essentially as a first party game. So I think that there's unfair comparisons there. Like, it's fun. I wouldn't recommend it at full price, but I think that in a year, maybe a year or two's time, when it's on very cheap somewhere, or part of a PlayStation Plus catalog 1 month, I don't know, then if you like the kind of Soulsy, FromSofty, Neo combat, I would 100% recommend it. I think it's a very fun game to play.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about it because I was like, I was doing the whole like, do I want to do Dragon's Dogma 2? Do I want to do Rise of the Ronin? I came to the same conclusion because, of course, like the timing of Dragon's Dogma 2, but also I was thinking about it and I was like, I could probably just get Wolong on sale right now and play Wolong now and play Rise of the Ronin later if I really wanted that experience, just to like save money and, also experience it. So.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't have like a vivid memory speaking specifically about visuals, because I think that that's one of the main criticisms that's been levied against Rise of the Ronin. I don't remember like crystal clear exactly how good or not good Wolong looked. I think in my head Wolong did look better, both from a stylistic standpoint, because it was more sort of mythology based, but also just in terms of like crispness of visuals. But then you do have to take into account that Wolong was segmented, individual, essentially open linear levels that had loading screens in between all of them and hub zones.
Yeah.
Whereas Rise of the Ronin is massive open world stuff, and there's going to be a compromise there regardless, in terms of visual fidelity. But also, it's the first time that Team Ninja has done this kind of game, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Like an open world game. So for it to still look decent enough, even if it does look certainly cross-generational at best, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Like Rebirth didn't look excellent. I mean, in graphics mode it did, but in performance, it's like, that's a little bit foggy and fuzzy, and that's what Rise of the Ronin is. So,
yeah,
not saying that they are on comparison in terms of quality. Obviously, Rebirth is the better game, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
right. It's not a big deal. So
if you don't want to play it, you've got tons of other things to play right now. Even if you're just talking about PlayStation, you've got tons of other stuff going on. You've got Rebirth still. You've got Stellar Blade coming up. You've got Pacific Drive that just came out. Helldivers 2. You're fine, people. It's okay. Don't panic. Just because this one wasn't a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, it's not the end of the world. Don't panic. It's a good game.
I'm panicked. I like panicking though.
Yeah. I think it's unfortunate because it has such obvious comparisons and very steep competition, in particular over the past few years, whether it's Ghost, whether it's Sekiro, whether it's I guess even Wolong to an extent in terms of comparison, and then coming off of another massive open world game like Rebirth. It's like this one doesn't quite square up to those, but it doesn't have to. That's not the point.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
I think that it's fine. Like you said,
yeah.
Not everything needs to be a 10 out of 10, and it's okay to not be a 10 out of 10. I have been reading a lot of garbage romance novels recently, and I will say even the 5 and 6s are good sometimes. So,
yeah,
as long as you're having a good time, that's what's important.
Yep. Yep. Taylor is back now.
Back and better than ever.
Remind me to never
Less
drink out of a cup at my desk ever again. Remind me to get a new water bottle and only drink out of water bottles from now on, unless I have guests over.
Yeah, I always drink out of water bottles. You can't drink out of anything else around cats, to be completely frank.
Oh, it wasn't my cat. It was all my fault.
That's good.
Yeah, water got a little bit on some cords that were on the floor, which shouldn't have been there. But they weren't connected to. It wasn't. I think they'll dry out and be fine. Like if water got on some USB-C cords.
Oh man.
On the ends, the connector ends. It'll be fine. If it spilled the other way would have been much worse. That's where the side of my desk is. It has my microphone, my mouse, my controllers, my joystick, my monitors, my phone, my PC.
Exactly.
So
Hashtag blessed.
Anyway, sorry to barge back in, but what I'm hearing from Sam is Rise of the Ronin is a good video game, nothing more, nothing less.
Indeed.
Okay. I'll have to re-listen to, those few minutes of my own podcast after we're done recording. Get the full scoop. Cool. Would you say, Sam, it's worth a $30 investment for the average?
Yeah, I was saying to Bree that I certainly don't recommend it right now at full price. I think in a year or two's time, if it's on sale for, I'd say 30 is a good point for this, I'd say. I did also say that it might drop in like a couple of years' time or something on a PS Plus update for 1 month, but obviously that wouldn't necessarily apply to you. But yeah, like if it's on steep discount and you enjoy the kind of Sekiro/Neo combat and a Ghost of Tsushima-esque open world that isn't as good as Ghost of Tsushima, but very close in terms of things to do and whatnot, then yeah, go for it. If you've got an itch that you need to scratch, then Rise of the Ronin is perfect. Sort of mindless, fun food for your brain.
Gotcha. One thing I don't know if you already mentioned it, but does Rise of the Ronin have good dismemberment combat? Is that a thing or no?
It does have dismemberment in its combat.
Yeah.
It's not something where you can like specifically target a certain limb or anything. But
like Ghost of Tsushima, it's Heavenly Strike, arm goes off. That's the only.
Yeah, it's certainly more common and more graphic than Ghost is.
Okay.
In terms of, like dismemberment.
Good.
Like you can cut arms off, legs off, heads off.
In real time.
Yeah. But they're all
in real.
They're all like predetermined. It's like if you go to perform like what's essentially like a finishing blow on someone, it may well be that you perform the variation where it cuts off the person's arm or the person's leg or the person's head, and you don't really have any say in which one it is.
Oh, I don't like that. I wish there's no little button input to target a certain limb.
No.
All right. Well, better than nothing.
Indeed.
Yeah, indeed. And they did not release this for PC concurrently, right?
No, it is a PS5 exclusive.
Gotcha. I think it'll come to PC eventually.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. Sam, one question I have for you, not about Rise of the Ronin, but about Midnight Suns.
Mm-hmm.
How's the Ghost Rider's on the cover? How's the Ghost Rider combat? Does he have the good moves?
Well, are you aware of what kind of game Midnight Suns is?
I know it's an XCOM tactical type game.
So it's obviously not real-time combat. It's card-based, and you play the card, and then they execute the move. But yeah, no, he's pretty cool. He's not one of my favorite characters. Again, I'm very early. But the little I've played with him, he seems to be a little more demanding in terms of like your knowledge of certain mechanics, but he does a lot in terms of like using his whips to sort of like throw an enemy in a specific direction and slam them into a wall or into a hazard or into another enemy.
Nice.
He can create like hellish portals in the floor that he can push people through. One of his more like dramatic moves is he calls down, because it's Robbie Reyes, it's not Johnny Blaze. He calls in his car, with the flaming wheels, and he sort of like just plows through the arena and deals a whole lot of damage, but discards your hand, which is a very hefty price, which I haven't really been inclined to use all that often. But yeah, no, he's fun.
Cool, because not to pry or anything, but Marvel's Midnight Suns Legendary Edition is on sale for $22. Not that I would.
It is. It's also part of the PlayStation Plus collect.
Yeah,
this month,
but I don't do PlayStation.
Taylor's a hater now
anymore. Well, Days of Play sales in June. They also discount PS Plus. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you might get it back on the bandwagon. Who knows?
No, I can't do that. I probably will because of cloud saves. I'm just going to be serious. They have me pinned for cloud saves.
Is what it is.
God. I'll be okay.
You will.
But yeah. Cool. I guess. Well, you guys, I assume didn't already cover the first story when I was gone, right?
No.
Right. Well, fitting that we were just talking about Rise of the Ronin. Got a little review roundup on the matter. Right now, the game's sitting at a 76 on OpenCritic. GameSpot gave it a 7 out of 10 with a little excerpt from their review, saying, though it has a somewhat steep combat learning curve and some dated open world ideas, Rise of the Ronin does a great job of rewarding your time in its world. Eurogamer gave it a 4 out of 5. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10. Games Radar gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Pretty much echoing what you're saying, Sam.
Yeah. I think it's hard to say because I'm sort of in the throngs of it right now. I do think that time will be relatively kind to the game. Not like bolstering it in terms of score necessarily, but just in terms of like perception, because right now it's a bit, I don't know, it seems like it's currently cool to hate on the game based on how it looks or how it performs or how the open world is designed or whatnot. But I think that ultimately, once people play through it properly, I could very easily see myself coming back to this game in like a year and a half's time, just wanting again to kind of like have that perfect blend of Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro in terms of the combat and the open world, merge the two together, turn your brain off and do something that's not overly challenging, but gives a little bit of both of those things that obviously I love, and we all love. I think it's right in that sweet spot. So don't hate on Rise of the Ronin. Give it a chance. Pick it up on sale. You'll have a good time. I guarantee you.
All right, thanks. I am going to see Rashomon in 35mm soon. So there you go.
Cool.
More samurai. More samurai fun.
Indeed.
Seems to be a lot of samurai stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
You know how we had like a vampire era after Twilight?
Yes.
We might be having a samurai era right now.
In games we are, but I don't think we are in movies really that much.
I mean, Shogun.
Oh, is that a good series? Do people like that series?
Dude, I cannot oversell Shogun. I'm only a few episodes in, but it is just.
I need to watch
it's
the
series. Probably the best original series that Disney Plus / FX have put out.
But it says it's on Hulu.
It is, but Hulu isn't a thing over here. It's Disney Plus, and Hulu's been merged with Disney Plus anyway. So, if you've got Disney Plus, you've got Hulu on it.
I have Hulu, so I need to watch Shogun, but I need to watch the MonsterVerse films first because I'm going to see Godzilla in IMAX next Sunday.
Which Godzilla is this?
Godzilla times Kong. Or X-Kong, however you say it.
Well, no, it's not that, is it? Because that was the last one. It was
no Godzilla.
The new one, Godzilla X Kong. Like
last one was Godzilla versus Kong. Yeah, last one was versus. This one's X.
I see.
Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire. So they team up to fight against, I think, like an Ultra Godzilla or an Ultra Kong type creature.
Okay. As one does.
It's just the big orangutan from Jungle Book.
Basically. Yep.
The Monkey King.
There's also a Netflix series, Kong Skull Island, that's animated. And there's Monarch on Apple Plus. Sorry,
I've heard
TV.
good things about Monarch, actually.
Yeah, so have I, but I'm not going to watch them all before Sunday. I'm just going to catch up on the films, rewatch King of the Monsters, watch Godzilla vs. Kong.
Good for you.
Shogun making another season?
I can't see that they wouldn't be. I mean, to be fair, like I don't know what this series covers in comparison to the original show, and I don't know how much there was of the original show. So it could just be a one series thing. I'm really not sure what the scope of this thing is, but it's already doing incredibly well. So if there is room for another series, I imagine it's not necessarily official, but probably already been greenlit.
Cool. Yeah, I need to watch this. Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch that at some point.
If it's like the 13 Assassins, I saw 13 Assassins
in a few years.
From the director Miike, like the Quentin Tarantino of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
That movie was rough. That had a lot of very graphic scenes.
Good.
Oh boy.
Not movie. Yeah, it was a movie, yeah. The remake of the original 13 Assassins. But it was a good combat movie for samurai. All this is going to make me replay Ghost. But then I can't play the DLC, Sam, because I don't have PS Plus.
See, it sounds like all of the issues that you're having could be solved by just resubscribing.
Right. The thing is, I won't...
You don't have cloud saves. You want to play Iki Island. You want to play Midnight Suns. It's like, what do those three things have in common?
Nothing.
The PlayStation Plus Essential subscription would get you that.
See, but Taylor is stubborn.
I'm not stubborn. I'm just waiting for the sale. It's a play sale where they discount PS Plus like 20%.
Good man.
Okay.
Yeah. In the meantime, I still have Ghost. I have my PS4 version of Ghost on PS5.
And we'll see Ghost 2 this year. There's a
Right.
Ghost of Tsushima movie happening.
Right. Wait, what? No.
There is.
Yeah,
No
from
way.
the John Wick director.
Yeah.
Did we cover this and I forgot about it?
I
Yeah.
don't know if you were there when we covered it, to be completely honest.
November 4th. No, I was in Rome doing Extra
Yeah.
Life. I was not there.
Yeah, Chad Stahelski.
Bless you.
Wait, what? Wait, who does Keanu play in the movie?
No. Keanu isn't in the film. I'm saying
it's just
that
the director,
film
John
is
Wick.
being done by the John Wick director.
Okay, because when I looked it up, it said cast: Keanu Reeves, Bill Skarsgård, Donnie Yen. I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah, Jin Sakai kills a dog, and then Keanu
John Wick
is like,
gets mad.
oh boy, blah, 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 with his pistols, and yeah, it's a real deviation from the source material. God bless you, Taylor.
Wow. Well,
The sounds that Sam just made kind of shocked my system a little bit.
So they're probably going to film it in English if he's directing it. Wait, who's the guy? I have a guess on who's the Shang-Chi actor.
Simu Liu.
Oh, I love
What if
him
he gets
so
cast
much.
as Jin?
He's so handsome.
I could see it.
I prefer the voice actor,
Simu Liu is
Oh.
Japanese.
but
Yeah, I know.
Daisuke Tsuji is the voice actor and the motion capture actor. Looks exactly like Jin Sakai.
Right. That would be nice.
He should be it. I don't know. I know that is like saying Christopher Judge should be Kratos, but I'm
He should be
of the opinion that he should be Kratos. So
Christopher Judge is also like jacked, I think.
exactly. And whilst Kratos isn't canonically black, he is certainly tan. So, like, if you're doing an adaptation, I can't see that he couldn't just be black. Obviously, prior to the Ashes, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, good. Sam, I think it's only fitting if you read this as a PSVR 2 stan of the group.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Sony is apparently pausing PSVR 2 production to help clear the excess inventory. This is all coming from John Porter at The Verge. So after producing in excess of 2 million units of its latest virtual reality headset, Bloomberg is now reporting that Sony has hit pause on production to try and shift the unsold inventory. For people that aren't aware, the PSVR 2 launched last February for $549 as an accessory for the PlayStation 5, but IDC data suggests that shipments have declined each quarter since its release. Bloomberg suggests that the problem is a lack of content for the headset. The PSVR 2 is compatible with a handful of AAA games, including Horizon Call of the Mountain, Gran Turismo 7, and entries in the Resident Evil series, as well as a range of smaller titles. But at $549, the headset costs more than the PS5 itself, so expectations are high. Bloomberg does note that Meta and Apple have faced similar content challenges with their own respective headsets. In an attempt to increase the amount of content available for its headset, Sony recently announced that it is testing PC support, offering, quote, the ability for PSVR 2 players to access additional games on PC, end quote. It's currently unclear how widespread the headset's support for PC titles might be, but the support is planned for release later this year. Oh no.
And that came from John Porter at The Verge. I don't know if you mentioned.
I did state that at the beginning. Don't worry.
I'm deaf. It's okay. Yeah, Sam. Oh no, what's wrong?
This is like a nothing thing to me because I bought into PSVR 2 knowing that this was realistically going to be the case, where the first party support would essentially be non-existent, and it would be mainly cross-generational, I guess you'd say, from VR1 to VR2 of the library of games, and maybe a couple of new games here and there that actively attract my attention. yeah, like I knew that the problem was going to be content. If anybody who is actually actively invested in the VR space at all, whether it's PSVR 2 specific or not, knows that the only real issue is content. Like the technology is superb pretty much across the board in terms of the whole market, whether it's PSVR 2 or MetaQuest 3 or the Oculus or Vive or whatever it's called now. They're all very high quality, good tech products. It's just that there isn't the catalog and consistent software support for it. So I knew that was happening, and therefore this is kind of like a nothing story to me. I think that Sony is obviously doing the right thing. Like, don't make more, for the love of God. Unless you see a massive uptick in sales, which again is highly unlikely. So, yeah, like it's a thing. It's happening. I'm not shocked. I knew this was going to happen. I'm honestly, I'm still surprised that they are testing PC support. Like the perfect logical solution, obviously, but I just never anticipated that they'd do it. So that inherently does make the PSVR 2 a bit of a better value proposition for some people, that it isn't inextricably linked to having to own a PS5. Because again, speaking with first-hand experience, the tech inside PlayStation VR 2 is very impressive. So I think that might entice some people who want something that, if they happen to have a PS5 or are planning to get a PS5 or a PS5 Pro, they can have a headset that works both on their laptop / PC and a console. That's a good amount of versatility. It's wired, obviously, but that's like it is what it is. It is what it is. I don't really have much else to say.
Well said.
Now, I one thing that you said that I kind of want to push at is that, like, there's nothing else wrong with the PSVR 2. And that's not to say that there is something wrong with the PSVR 2, but also when you're talking about like VR buy-in, it's a much higher cost than most VR.
I don't know that that's true.
Well,
the MetaQuest 3 pretty comparable, and that's like the one of the highest end consumer outside of the Apple thing that just released. Obviously, you can get MetaQuest 2 and older headsets much cheaper now. I admit that, but if you're looking for relatively top end, top shelf VR, PSVR 2 isn't pulling its punches, and it's certainly not like drastically outclassed by its competitors. Obviously, it's got, again, the intrinsic need to have a PS5 to run, but I think that removing that and allowing the PC support, however extensive that is, we don't know, means that it is going to be, in many ways, in line with other headsets, even though it's wired, which is, again, the drawback. I'm not saying that PSVR 2 doesn't have drawbacks. It certainly does. But I think that there is a potential misconception that PSVR 2 is already drastically outdated and outclassed in its field, and that just isn't true.
No, I definitely don't think that that's true, but I do think that, like, the combination of like lack of support, cost, everything is kind of making this perfect storm. It's very sad because I think I would really, really love for the PSVR 2 to be incredibly successful. So
the one other thing I'd clarify as well is, again, there is a misconception that like no games are coming out for it. Pretty consistently, new VR games are coming out. They aren't like obviously first party, and they aren't necessarily massive second or third party titles, but games are coming out for the PlayStation VR 2 specifically almost all the time. Granted, are they all of quality? No, but then you could say that about regular PS5 games. So So I think that there is still software coming out. It's not like it is just completely dead. There is still new stuff coming most of the time. But you just, if you're buying into VR in general, you kind of have to know that you aren't going to just get banger, 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 banger. You're going to have lots of smaller, interesting indie type experiences with a few like real good ones sprinkled in here and there. And not that I'm going to blame a consumer for being ignorant to that fact, but if you are buying into this market, you kind of have to know what you're buying into.
Wow.
And that's what VR has always been. It's not, this isn't a new thing for PSVR 2. That's just how the VR market has worked thus far. So,
yeah, for sure. At least it's not 3,000 like the Vision Pro.
Indeed.
The Vision Pro? Is that a VR that's $3,000? Vision Pro?
Yeah.
Is that the Apple one?
Yeah, that's Apple one.
Yeah,
my dad's friend owns one. I guess he's my friend too. Anyways,
which is like, it is very, very, very impressive tech wise, granted. But
oh yeah, it's so cool.
Going to pay $3,500 for that. To be fair, if I could justify it, I would, but that is just way outside of anything I can afford. So,
that would be great. One of us get it. One of
in
us
10
get
years
rich.
Time, maybe when it, assuming that the VR/AR space is still a thing, which I can't see it completely disappearing. Maybe in like 10 years time.
Okay. All right. Well, when you get rich, you let me know.
Okay.
You're just going to message me randomly. Brianna, I'm rich.
I am now rich.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
All right. Let's see. Next. I don't know. Bree, do you want to read this one or do you want to read Story 4? You're the Bungie fan.
I am not a Bungie fan.
Oh, never mind. You're not the Bungie.
I'm not a Bungie hater, but I'm also not a Bungie fan.
Okay.
I'll just read this one. Okay. Sony's new AI will be targeting 4K 120 FPS and 8K 60 FPS. What am I reading? PlayStation's new Spectral Super Resolution, which is PSSR, which will first be integrated into PlayStation 5 Pros, is internally aiming for 4K 120 FPS and 8K 60 FPS console gaming, Insider Gaming has learned. The news comes following this week's leak. Where's my leak? I don't know where my leak is. I'll find it later, you guys.
Get it. Okay.
I've got my beat. It'll have to do for now.
Okay.
I don't know where my leak is. The news following this week's leaks of the PS5 Pro, which revealed that the PlayStation 5 Pro, codenamed Trinity, would be incorporating PSSR to upscale to higher resolutions. Currently, PSSR works on SKD 9.0 in the PlayStation 5 Pro to bring 4K resolutions. While 4K 120 FPS and 8K 60 FPS are not the targets for the PS5 Pro due to hardware limitations, it is the internal goal for PSSR in future console iterations. The PlayStation 5 Pro PSSR currently supports 3840 by 2160 and is currently aiming for 4K 60 FPS and 8K 30 FPS, but it's unclear if those internal milestones can be passed. This comes from Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming. Wow, this is incredibly interesting to me. I didn't know that this was like I knew about the PlayStation 5 Pro, but like the AI stuff I didn't know about. Man, can you guys imagine like if like the AI can fix older games too?
Now, I hate AI, but I like that.
Like if it could fix Bloodborne and make it.
Stop it.
There has been rumination / speculation from some tech people around the industry that this would work retroactively. Not necessarily across the board,
right?
But pretty comprehensively. So,
man, it's so AI is so incredibly interesting. I work with AI every day of my job. And man, it's just so bizarre and interesting what it can do. Slightly spooky, but you know.
If anyone can work wonders, it's Mark Cerny.
Fair.
You sure Mark's behind this one?
I mean, he's behind every console.
He's always there.
He has to retire, man.
No. Work him to the bone. He will die behind some sort of lab equipment where he's constructing the PlayStation 10.
I mean,
and he'll do so happily.
Yeah.
I have no plans to retire, so I'm assuming it's the same for him.
Going from the PS3 and how historically rough that was in terms of its tech, though powerful, just unwieldy, for Mark Cerny to then take over like lead development of PS4 and then PS5, and how astronomically successful both of those consoles have been thus far. Like, this sounds hefty. This sounds like a lot. This sounds pretty crazy, but I don't know. It's being verified. It's being corroborated. So Cerny's just there tinkling away with his fingers, doing some crazy magic stuff. And
as one does.
I believe it. Yeah. Who doesn't tinkle with their fingers?
Whoa.
What?
So, yeah. Again, like we were talking about, I think it was me and you, Taylor, because Brie wasn't here.
I'm never here.
The idea that they are getting this console out by the end of this year, ahead of time for GTA 6, that is a big, 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 big deal. And some people were saying, oh, the PS5 Pro is not going to be able to run GTA 6 60 because it's running off the same CPU or whatever. I'm like, what? You're looking at one specific element, granted an important element of the hardware within the PS5 Pro, but with everything else, I find it very hard to believe that GTA 6 wouldn't run. Granted, no idea what the resolution would be, but GTA 6 wouldn't run at 60 on the PS5 Pro. I find that very hard to believe.
Yes. It would be Sony's, like we said, in previous weeks. The incentive to get the console would be to play GTA 6 at the best performance a console can buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, you guys, I don't know how to deal with this AI stuff. It's so weird and cool.
I don't mind AI in my games doing that. I just don't want AI to take my job.
Yeah.
To be fair, where AI is, even though I use AI to help with my position, it still requires human interaction to do the correct thing, because it's still not quite there where it can fully understand, but it's always learning. So you never know when that changes.
Yep, Skynet. Brie, have you seen Terminator?
Why do you ask these questions? Why do you ask?
Well, Brie,
why is that one upsetting?
Brie, if you want to get Helldivers too, we can help in the war against the automatons, against the AI automatons, so we can,
And why do I want this?
For democracy.
Uh-huh.
And liberty.
Yeah, because democracy is going really well.
For managed democracy on other planets, they need us.
That doesn't sound like anything else happening in the world.
Think of Super Earth, how we liberated Super Earth. All right. It's
Okay.
not fascism, okay? I don't care what you guys are saying. It's not fascism. It's managed democracy.
I'm thinking about it. Mm-hmm.
It's only $40.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, it'll be on PS Plus
You
in a year
tried,
anyway.
Tyler. You tried.
Anyway, last story, I guess I'll read it, is there's a rumor that was reported to a pretty well-known, among the Destiny community, a well-known Destiny YouTuber named Astacross. She's an anonymous tip regarding tensions between Bungie and Sony, possibly resulting in a full takeover. And this is a rumor. Warning, rumor. So take it with a grain of salt. And the tip they received is, quote, I'm writing this on a throwaway. Please use this info to corroborate other sources you may have. An internal inspective at Sony is very negative towards Bungie right now. It is seen as a failed investment, and strategies are being discussed revolving around more of recouping losses. One internal leader from the U.S. is fighting to take over to right the ship, while many others across the Pacific, presumably in Japan, want a much harsher method. The former U.S. leader holds a lot of respect from overseas leadership, so it is likely they will get their way. That person's perspective is that there are many gluttonous executives at Bungie who are not doing their jobs and are hindering the organization. It is believed that the workers are skilled, but the leadership is unable to perform their duties. You guys remember what I was talking about people rising to their level of incompetence? All right. Anyway, Bungie's in a hard spot because pre-order numbers are lower than anticipated. I apologize, I do not have details and actual numbers, but Sony believes that the finances will not allow Bungie to avoid a takeover, even with another round of layoffs, as that would cannibalize development and future revenue. Overall, Sony has been very upset at Bungie leadership. They have not been able to successfully advise Sony teams, and while Lightfall hit internal revenue targets, every target since has been missed at an escalating decline. Bungie leadership regularly reschedules meetings with Sony leadership, knowing that the next time slot can be months away. I hope this sheds light for ongoings from Sony's side. It is believed that the takeover would allow Sony to turn Destiny into a more profitable game. This sounds bad, but is being treated as a lightning in a bottle. Sony leadership wants to nurture the game and understand that more aggressive monetization would not be healthy. There would be a monetization model switch, though, as it is believed the current model is too confusing. The main difference between the US leader versus Japan leaders getting their way matters more for Bungie's in-development titles. If Japan leadership gets their way, teams for future titles will be gutted and reformed. Geez. Well, again, rumor, but it seems like both sides of the water here are not doing well. Bungie's current leadership can't handle it, and the leadership from Sony over at Japan presumably wants to reform how the game's monetized. Possible. And from the author of this insider blurb, seems possibly for the worse. So I don't know, not a good time for Bungie, as we've seen over the recent months.
Just to clarify, it does say that Sony leadership wants to nurture the game and understand that more aggressive monetization would not be healthy.
No, yeah, I know. They did say that, but changing the to gut and reform the game's monetization scheme, it could be a wild card. Well,
they'd be gutting and reforming the teams for future titles, not for the monetization within Destiny.
Whoopsie, I miscomprehended. Yeah, it says the teams for future titles will be gutted and reformed. Sorry, that's the thing. Teams for future titles will be gutted and reformed. My point is that it seems like even if Sony says they want to nurture the game, from Sony Japan wants to nurture the game, there would be more layoffs anyway.
Well, that's where it gets confusing because Bungie are the ones that would be enforcing the layoffs in an attempt to prevent the takeover, to ensure the line in terms of meeting margins, avoiding the takeover even with another round of layoffs. It's all in an attempt to ensure that Sony doesn't have the clause within the contract fulfilled that they can do this quote-unquote hostile takeover. Again, the clarification needs to be mentioned that this is specifically Sony being unhappy with the leadership of Bungie. the talent in Bungie is inherent and understood on all sides, but it's specifically Bungie leadership essentially seemingly being completely inept, and not being able to either set expectations in terms of profits correctly, because they missed by like 45% a number of months ago. I think that's the main thing, and that, in my opinion, is only a good thing. If they are rooting out leadership that is fundamentally leading the rest of the studio and the developers down a negative path, which is what's happening, it only makes fiduciary and logical sense to gut that leadership entirely, or for the most part, and course correct. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah, I just at this point, like, especially with how everything has been going with Bungie, like, do we know for sure that it's not just Sony saying that?
Sony saying what?
That the leadership isn't working?
No, I mean, it's pretty well documented that developers at Bungie have been pretty exasperated with leadership in terms of developers trying to, like, being on record, essentially, in whatever ways they can be on record, saying that they have gone to leadership saying we need to course correct on this. These are the things that we need to prioritize and implement into the game, etc., etc. And they've either been ignored or continually waylaid and pushed back to the point where we're now seeing them struggle. It's kind of like Bungie getting rid of Michael Salvatore, who is the legendary composer that they had for the game, who wrote the Halo theme, and has done all of the music for Destiny. They got rid of him in that round of layoffs that happened.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
It's like when you are gutting talent that is that integral to your studio and the identity of your projects, that seems like complete mismanagement to me, particularly when you take into account that the leadership didn't take any kind of pay cut or bonus reduction or anything like that. So I think that this is landing solely, or the majority of it is landing directly on Bungie leadership. Again, the quote here is, "It's believed that the workers are skilled, but the leadership is unable to perform their duties." So, like, nobody's doubting that the developers on the ground level at Bungie are very good at what they do. Like, that's inherently apparent in what they've done with Destiny for over a decade now. But
yeah,
it's just piss poor management and bad financial decisions have put them in a rough spot.
Yeah. So hopefully they'll be okay.
And there's no talk of closing the studio.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like Sony is like, no, screw it. We made a bad call. It's going to close it down and recoup some costs that way. They want to make Bungie and Destiny and future titles profitable without going crazy on monetization or anything.
Yeah.
It's just they kind of need to, realistically, in my opinion, as brutal as it might sound, they kind of need to strike now. Sony, I mean. They need to make it happen now, or as close to now as possible, rooting out this leadership, because it's not mentioned here, but like the game director for Marathon was recently replaced, and the creative direction of that game has gone from a PvP extraction shooter to a more hero-based shooter, more in line with Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege, that kind of thing, where you are picking a specific character that has, or an Apex, or things like that, as opposed to just the fodder games that you see thrown out that are extraction shooters that have you just playing a random character. God knows whether that is going to improve the quality of the game. I don't know, but there have already been pretty fundamental changes in terms of Bungie's future made And it's clear that what's happening right now isn't working.
Yeah.
So they're between rock and a hard place. I'm just glad that Sony are mandating these changes.
Yeah. No, I think that I'm glad to see it, and I hope things go well. I think that I just worry because, like, of all of, like, not that Sony is doing terrible things, but we've seen both sides of the Sony coin, right? Where they've, like, literally, like, they bought a studio, closed that studio made a new team. Sony then bought that team and then closed that team, right? So we've seen Sony mismanage things as well. Not that they overall as a whole have been mismanaging everything. So I think that we can definitely give them that, like, leeway to trust them. But I do also think that I'm hesitant. You know, I'm just worried. That's all. So.
Yeah. I mean, this can go either way. It's either going to end in a better, brighter future for Bungie and, like, rejuvenate them. Not saying that it's at all comparable, but it's, in my mind, I kind of view it in the same way that Xbox have just done with Activision, like rooting out Bobby Kotick and changing up the leadership structure. Obviously, very different circumstances. I know that. I'm not drawing a one-to-one, but the leadership of both of those teams, companies, studios, whatever, were the real issue and were driving decisions or cultures within those areas that were negatively impacting the developers and the bottom line in a number of circumstances.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're going to institute change and make cuts, in Bungie's situation and most situations, I would wager it's correct more often than not to start top down. It's almost never that way, but it's seemingly that way here currently. So that's more reassuring than not, but I agree that it is probably the most precarious position that Bungie has been in, outside of maybe just before they went independent from Microsoft.
Yeah.
So I assume as well, like, I don't know what your guys' opinion on this is. I assume they are probably having far less input on other studios' games, if any at all, at this point.
Bungie are having less. But why would they have input on other
less active
games?
Input advising
because
other teams' games?
They were helping other teams with their multiplayer games. I don't think so, because even though Bungie is having issues, it doesn't change that the developers, it doesn't change their expertise and the help that they can offer. Just because they have a mismanaged studio doesn't mean that they, like, can't still help. But I do think it's probably going to be less people.
Yeah.
Like, it'll probably be, like, more of like a, hey, we used to send out 10 people, now we're only sending out 5 people, or whatever it is, right? Like, so they're probably keeping things, like, closer to the chest, but they're probably still able to step away and help because, I mean, regardless, they're still, like you've said multiple times, like, they're talented developers regardless. So I think that they can still offer their help and expertise regardless of what's going on internally.
I would just say I don't think that they are going to have the final say on whether a project continues or not anymore.
No.
I don't know if I share the sentiments about Sony being the one to help here, but I'm interested to see the result.
Yeah. I mean, I think that of everybody that could help, I think that Sony is probably the answer. But I definitely agree that I'm worried.
Yeah. I know folks employed at Bungie. They're real people.
It's interesting that there's, like, seemingly a division in terms of top-down opinion, that there's, like, this divide between what the US leadership want to do.
Okay, this is one person's perspective on a rumor, so we don't Right.
Sure, but still, like, this seems to be relatively accurate considering all the things we've heard of Bungie for months now.
Right.
That there is potentially a division between US leadership at Sony and, as you said, Taylor, realistically Japanese leadership, and how one wants to be far harsher than the other. Because
Yeah,
I
think
don't know
it's
what
partially.
that harsher is.
Yeah, I mean it's partially like culture stuff. But
Sure.
Yeah. Also, yeah. U.S. corporate leadership has turned into just the balance sheet. If you're not making enough revenue on your product, time to slash people's jobs immediately, sort of thing.
But it's suggested here that the Japanese
opposite.
leadership is the one that's wanting harsher treatment for the studio, whereas the US is fighting to like try and damage control, right the ship without massive impact.
Right. So that's what I thought it was saying first, and then I thought you were trying to correct me and say that wasn't the case. That's why I was a bit confused.
No. We're talking about two slightly separate things there.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking specifically now about the part where it says that the one internal leader from the US is fighting to take over to right the ship, whilst many others across the Pacific want a much harsher method.
Right. And that would be consistent with Hiroki Totoki's recent introduction about trying to get better margins. And restructuring their studios to fit that bill.
Which would also, like, this is potentially conjecture, but also something I just thought of, that would corroborate the sentiment that realistically it was probably Jim Ryan doing the live service push, more so than the Japanese side of SIE. Because if Hiroki Totoki is doing this and that the people across the Pacific in Japan were wanting a harsher like punishment or course correction for Bungie as opposed to the US, that means that they are probably far less inclined to support a studio that is historically specifically a live service studio. So maybe there is some weight behind that Jim Ryan, I mean, it's kind of an assumption that we all made, but that Jim Ryan was really the driving factor behind this live service push that we saw from Sony. And that whether he left completely of his own volition or was sort of very politely ushered out the door, that maybe now they are really trying to backpedal as much as possible.
Maybe. Guess time will tell.
Yep.
Indeed.
Unless somebody knows how to hack emails. I'm just kidding.
Which we do not encourage.
No, we really don't.
Bungie will be fine as a studio. I wholeheartedly believe that. I think that the talent there, the name recognition of the studio, it's too strong currently. Who knows 5-10 years from now, but I don't see Sony shutting down the studio or selling it off. I don't see that happening.
I really hope not.
I think now that they've got them, they will just do, even if it means a complete divergence away from the live service angle and going back to more of mostly what they used to be known for, like the just regular first-person shooter stuff. That is a deficit that Sony has in general, and Bungie, whether it's live service or not, does still have expertise in that field. So I think that they are too valuable a talent to completely cut off one way or the other.
Yeah, makes sense.
I could eat my words, but that's hopium for you.
Okay.
Fair enough. But yeah, other than that, I think we'll hit the outro. So thank you all so much for listening. You can find us on YouTube at Save the Game Media, Twitter at Save Game Media. Discord links are all in the description and show notes. Where can people find you, Brianna?
You can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FABULAST
Nice. Sam?
Anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, HEANEY.
Awesome. You can find me on the Discord
Mm-mm.
And on PlayStation at Mr. Carter 9, MrCarternine, or Steam as TPR.
And OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Okay. All right, my little Welsh friend. Let's see about that. Until next time. Catch us for the post show this episode. Join the Patreon for post show content. Recording right after the show. Bye. Have a good one.